You may have been trying to earn peace, trying to prove your faith, trying to move faster so God will bless you sooner. But what if the freedom you are asking for does not come from striving? What if it comes from receiving God's love today, right where you are? Stay with me. This prayer is for the heart that is tired of carrying everything alone. You may have been told, quietly or loudly, that success is proven by speed, that if God truly loves you, doors should open quickly, that if your faith is strong, life should feel light, that freedom means the absence of struggle. But ask yourself, has that belief brought you peace, or has it brought you pressure? Has it drawn you closer to God, or has it made you anxious when progress feels slow? The truth is gentle, but it is firm. God's love is not proven by how fast things happen. It is proven by how deeply He walks with you while they unfold. True freedom is not the removal of effort. It is the presence of God within it, not your will, but His will. Not your timing, but His timing. And in that surrender, something holy begins to grow. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not failing because your life looks quieter than you expected. Many of the most important works of God happen where no one is clapping, where no one is watching, where only obedience remains. The world praises results. God shapes hearts. The world rewards appearance. God refines character. And the freedom you are seeking is not found in doing more. It is found in receiving His love today as you are, and allowing that love to change how you walk forward. Imagine a seed placed into the ground. Once buried, it looks like loss. It disappears from sight. If you did not know better, you might think it was wasted. But under the soil, unseen, work begins. Pressure presses in. Darkness surrounds it. Yet that pressure is not punishment. It is positioning. Roots stretch downward before anything reaches upward. Strength forms where no eye can see. This is how God often works in you. Before He changes your surroundings, He deepens your foundations. Before He frees your hands, He steadies your heart. Growth is happening even when you feel still, especially when you feel still. God's love does not rush the seed. Love protects the process. Love allows time. Love trusts what has been planted. Ask yourself, have you been judging your life by what is visible, or by what God is forming beneath the surface? Day by day, He is doing a quiet work. Day by day, He is teaching you to trust Him without proof. Day by day, He is building freedom not based on circumstances, but based on truth rooted deep within you. There is a spiritual law that does not change. Preparation always precedes purpose. God's timing is not random. It is precise. When He delays what you desire, He is often developing what you need. Preparation is not wasted time, it is protected time. A heart not prepared cannot carry freedom without misusing it. A life not disciplined cannot hold blessing without distortion. So God aligns your inner life with His timing. He teaches you to listen before He asks you to lead. He teaches you to obey before He expands your influence. Not your will, but His will. This alignment is love in action. You may want relief. God may be offering renewal. You may want escape. God may be offering endurance. Ask yourself, what if this season is not about getting out, but about becoming ready? What if God's love today is not changing your location, but changing your posture? Freedom begins there. Freedom begins when you stop resisting the shaping and start receiving the love behind it. Pressure has a way of revealing what lives in the heart. Not what you say you believe, but what you actually lean on. Think of a believer who loses stability they once trusted. Their routine breaks. Their security shifts. In that pressure, one of two things happen. Either fear begins to speak louder than faith, or prayer becomes more honest than ever before. The pressure does not create what is inside. It reveals it. Another believer faces long obedience with no applause, serving faithfully, giving quietly, staying disciplined when no one notices. Over time, discouragement presses in, yet instead of quitting, they remain. That remaining reveals love. That staying reveals trust. That quiet obedience becomes strength. Pressure is not proof of abandonment. It is often proof of refinement. God uses it to show you where your trust truly rests. Ask yourself, when pressure rises, do you run from God or run toward Him? Freedom is not found in avoiding pressure. It is found in meeting God within it. Day by day, He invites you to bring your true self, not your polished one. Distraction feels harmless, but it slowly steals what focus builds. Focused obedience is sacred stewardship. It is choosing to give God your attention when many other voices compete for it. Distraction fragments the heart. Obedience unites it. When you are pulled in many directions, you lose clarity. When you choose one faithful step at a time, peace returns. Not your will, but His will. Focus is not intensity. It is faithfulness. It is doing what God has placed before you without rushing ahead or drifting aside. Ask yourself, what has been stealing your attention lately? Is it comparison? Is it noise? Is it impatience? God's love gently calls you back to what matters. One prayer, one act of obedience, one moment of trust. Freedom grows where focus is guarded. The path of growth is simple, but it is not easy. You learn, you apply, you examine, you correct, and you remain faithful. Learning without applying produces pride. Applying without examining produces error. Examining without correcting produces stagnation. Correcting without faithfulness produces exhaustion. But when all five work together, growth becomes steady, day by day, not dramatic, not rushed, but real. Discipline is often misunderstood. It is not emotion. It is not motivation. It is faithfulness in motion. Discipline is choosing obedience when feelings are quiet. It is showing up because God is worthy, not because you feel inspired. This is love expressed through action. This is freedom practiced daily. Emotions rise and fall. Faithfulness remains. God teaches patience through seasons. Winter does not mean death. It means rest. Spring does not rush. It unfolds. Harvest does not arrive the moment the seed is planted. Time is not the enemy. It is the servant of growth. Ask yourself, are you fighting the season you are in, or are you learning from it? Strategic patience trusts that God knows when fruit is ready. Reflection and correction require humility. They require listening. They require admitting when adjustment is needed. This is not weakness. It is wisdom. God's love corrects because it cares. It refines because it values. When you receive correction without resistance, freedom deepens. Spiritual momentum is built through small, repeated obedience. One prayer leads to another. One faithful choice strengthens the next. Over time, obedience compounds. What once felt heavy becomes natural. What once required effort becomes desire. This is how God changes you. Slowly, surely, lovingly. Breakthrough is not an event you wait for. It is a walk you commit to, day by day with God, step by step in trust. Freedom is not found at the finish line. It is found in the companionship along the way. Today, receive God's love, not because you earned it, not because you proved yourself, but because He gives it freely. Walk in that love, and let true freedom grow within you as you continue, trusting Him even when the path feels quiet, knowing that His presence is shaping every step you take, and that as you learn to rest in His love, you begin to see that freedom is not something you chase, but something you live as you remain obedient, patient, and faithful in the small daily choices that draw you closer to Him, until your heart begins to understand that this journey itself is the gift, and that God's love today is enough to carry you forward into all that He has prepared for you, even when you cannot yet see the full picture, because faith does not require sight, only trust, and as you trust Him more deeply, you find that the fear that once held you begins to loosen its grip, and the joy of walking with God becomes stronger than the weight of waiting, and your soul learns to breathe again, and you realize that freedom was never about escaping the process, but about being held by God within it. And as this truth settles in your heart, you begin to pray differently, walk differently, and listen more carefully, allowing His love to guide your steps in ways that feel gentle yet firm, until obedience no longer feels like loss but like alignment, and patience no longer feels like delay but like wisdom. And you start to sense that something new is forming within you, something steady, something grounded, something that cannot be shaken easily, because it is rooted not in circumstances but in God's unchanging love. And as you remain here, present with Him, willing to stay, willing to learn, willing to be shaped, the work continues quietly, faithfully, deeply, preparing you for what comes next in ways you may not fully understand yet, but can trust completely, because He is faithful, and his love never fails. And as you continue to walk, you may notice that your prayers become less about demanding outcomes and more about seeking his heart, less about controlling the future and more about surrendering the present. And in that surrender, peace begins to settle, not because everything is resolved, but because you are no longer walking alone. And this companionship with God becomes the foundation of your freedom, teaching you that each morning is an invitation to receive his love again, to lay down your fears again, to choose obedience again, and to trust that even when the road feels long, every step taken with him is leading you exactly where you need to be. And as this awareness grows, you begin to see how even past struggles were shaping you, how unanswered prayers were redirecting you, how closed doors were protecting you, and how God's love was present even when you did not recognize it. And this realization brings humility, gratitude, and renewed faith, helping you to move forward with a quieter confidence, no longer striving to prove your worth, but resting in the truth that you are already loved, already seen, already held. And from that place of security, obedience becomes lighter, discipline becomes steadier, patience becomes possible, and freedom becomes your daily experience rather than a distant hope. Because you are learning to walk in step with God, trusting his pace, honoring his process, and receiving his love, not as a reward at the end, but as a sustaining presence along the way, shaping you gently, faithfully, and completely into who you are meant to be as you continue to remain, day by day, not your will, but his will, guiding your heart and your steps as the journey continues. And as you keep walking with him, you begin to notice subtle shifts within your soul. Things that once triggered anxiety no longer hold the same power. Thoughts that once spiraled into fear now pause and turn toward prayer. This is not because life has become easier, but because your roots have grown deeper. Day by day, God's love is training your inner responses. Freedom is forming quietly. Ask yourself, are you becoming more aware of God's presence in ordinary moments? Are you learning to pause before reacting? This is growth. This is love shaping your inner world, not your will, but his will. This phrase is not a surrender to loss. It is a doorway to peace. When you release your grip on how things must happen, you make room for how God desires to work. Many carry exhaustion because they are trying to manage outcomes that belong to God alone. Love invites you to lay that weight down. Obedience invites you to trust his wisdom over your understanding. And discipline teaches you to return to that trust again and again, especially on days when feelings are silent. There will be moments when obedience feels repetitive, when prayer feels ordinary, when faithfulness feels unseen. This is where many grow weary. But ask yourself, what if this repetition is not stagnation, but strengthening? Muscles are built through repeated movement. Hearts are refined through repeated surrender. Day by day, you are being trained to remain steady, not because circumstances are steady, but because God is. True freedom does not remove responsibility. It reorders it. You are no longer responsible for outcomes, but for obedience. You are no longer responsible for timing, but for faithfulness. This shift brings rest. You can breathe again. You can walk without panic. God's love holds what you release. Seasons will continue to change. Some will feel fruitful. Others will feel quiet. Do not despise the quiet ones. In them, God often does his most precise work. He speaks softly so you learn to listen closely. He slows the pace so you learn to walk with him rather than ahead of him. Ask yourself, what is God teaching you to notice right now? What is he inviting you to release? Reflection keeps your heart soft. Correction keeps your path aligned. Humility keeps your spirit teachable. These are not heavy burdens. They are gifts. They protect you from pride and despair alike. When you reflect honestly, you see where God has been faithful. When you accept correction, you grow wiser. When you remain humble, you stay open to grace. Spiritual momentum continues to build as you choose obedience in small things. One morning prayer, one patient response, one decision to trust instead of control. These choices may seem small, but over time they shape your character. And character carries freedom, not the loud kind, the lasting kind. As you walk forward, you may still desire breakthrough. That desire is not wrong, but let it mature. Let it become a hope rooted in trust rather than urgency. Breakthrough will come, but it will arrive as part of a journey, not as an interruption of it. When it does, you will recognize it not just in changed circumstances, but in a changed heart. This morning receive God's love again, not as an idea, but as a presence. Let it steady you. Let it correct you gently. Let it free you from striving. Walk today not trying to earn His approval, but responding to it. Day by day, step by step, not your will, but His will. And as you continue to walk, remember that freedom is not found by escaping the narrow path, but by staying on it with God. The path teaches you endurance. It teaches you trust. It teaches you love. And as long as you remain, God will remain with you, guiding, shaping, and sustaining you until the work He has begun reaches its fullness in His time and in His perfect way.